Okay. We are up and running.
Okay. Live stream. All right. So it's 6:59. Everybody in, Joan? I'll
Yes.
start.
Yes.
Okay. I, Mary McVeigh, call to order the August 18th Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting at 7 p.m. Also in attendance via Zoom are Vice Chair Dave Gerstenhaber, Supervisors Arrowback and Day. And also in attendance are Solicitor Mark Thompson. Is he here?
Yes.
Okay. Township Manager Joe McFaul, Assistant Township Manager Jeff Eastburn, Secretary Mary Oprah, and how many members of the public?
4.
4 members of the public. All right, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to
the republic for which it stands. I don't hear anybody.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. I guess the first thing we'll do is make an announcement that there was an executive session held on August 11th to discuss a legal issue. And there was an executive session held on August 15th to discuss possible restructure. Were there any other executive sessions while I was away? Dave?
Nope.
No. All right then. Well, we'll move on to the public comment. Public comment is for anything relating to items on tonight's agenda. The last public comment is for items not on tonight's agenda. It's important you state your name clearly for the record so your comments can be reflected accurately. Please state whether you're a township resident or a township taxpayer. If you're using YouTube, you must type in your name and address before your comment will be recognized. And if you don't identify yourself, your comments will not be reflected in the minutes. Are there any public comments about tonight's agenda? All right. I don't hear any, so we'll keep going. Donna, you're up next, please.
All right, Mary, let me see what I have here. So, okay, I got it. So approval of the 2021 meeting minutes. So I motion to the board to approve version 1 of the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes held on July 21st, 2021. Can I have a second for that?
I'll second it.
All right, thanks, David. Any discussion? Okay. All right, then I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And all opposed, say nay.
Nay.
So that's it carries 3-1. Thank you.
Okay. And so I am up next. So I make a motion that the board approve the July 2021 Treasurer's Report, which includes the following disbursements: the general fund with disbursements and transfers of $102,076.14. The Park and Recreation Fund for disbursements of $7,624.72. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $50,261.75. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $3,962. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $1,768,284.91. Can I have a second?
I'll second that, David.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Any discussion? Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0.
All right.
And
And Nancy's not on, so I'll read her what she's scheduled to read. Next is the zoning officer report. In the month of July 2021, 2 permits were issued. $437.20 in building fees and $100 in miscellaneous fees were collected. 20 inspections were performed. A certified letter was sent August 6, 2021, requesting a copy of the contract and update on the bamboo zoning issue on 116 Peacedale Road. No motion is required.
Just an update on the 116 Peacedale Road. They have taken care of the bamboo.
Oh, great. That's wonderful.
so if
All
we
right.
have we ever done any research into some bamboo remediation that maybe if residents have an issue with bamboo, put some resources up on our website that they can either take care of it completely or just kind of give them some help in identifying ways to mitigate that? Like if they call and they have concerns, do we have places we can send them to say, hey, here's how you get rid of your bamboo?
That it's very hard to get rid of, Dave. One of the easiest ways to control it, or not easiest, but one of the best ways to control it is to drive some type of barrier in the ground so the roots can't get past it, and it'll stay where it's coming up. But to get rid of it, you just have to dig it out. I mean, it's really hard to get rid of.
Yeah.
We can do some research to see if we can come up with something better than that. But just because we had some on township land that we tried to get rid of, and it's just not something easy to do.
Right.
No.
That's why.
It's an invasive species, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
it's invading.
I recommend that we withdraw the ordinance.
I'm not there yet.
I don't know. Maybe we could put something on the website, an article, don't plant bamboo. I was told years and years ago when I was studying, if you want to plant bamboo, sink a cast iron tub in the ground, plant it in there, and hopefully it won't spread. It can still spread. It's terribly invasive. Yeah, so maybe we could put something about the nature of bamboo. Maybe people aren't totally aware how truly invasive it is.
I think a lot of this is existing bamboo. When you buy a new home, the bamboo's already there. I'm not sure if people are planting it and letting it grow rampant, but I don't know. I think most people don't put new bamboo crops in. It's usually existing stuff.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can do some research and put that on my long-term list. And then Joan and I can circle back with the board at some point once I have what I think is good information.
Okay. All right. The next item, John, you're up for the next couple items.
Planning Commission held a meeting on August 5th, 2021. Planning Commission member will provide an update.
So I don't have the full list there. Is there anyone from the Planning Commission present at the meeting tonight? Or I can just, I could just read.
You have the minutes, correct, Dave?
I do.
Okay.
I just wanted to determine if we had anybody from the Planning Commission. So the PC reviewed the Township engineers review of the 1691 New London Road Land Development Plan. There's a plan to put in a small auto shop there. We're progressing. The PC is progressing through. Mr. Hazel, the owner, has agreed to the requirements, and we are in the process of finalizing that land development plan. And we anticipate having the final document available for the board, us to review in the next few months. And I believe the minutes are up. They're very short. There's just a page. So if anyone from the public would like to just read through the minutes, it won't take you too long. So I anticipate, I forget if there is no timeline here, but I think we're going to plan on having something to the board in the next month or so for us to review. I don't think I have anything else to discuss on that matter.
All right. Joan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Everything in my house froze here for a moment.
Oh,
So
okay. You know,
I'm
you're
down
good.
back. All
Okay.
right. What are we up to? We did the
John,
planning commission?
next one.
Okay, John?
The HARB and the Historic Commission did not hold a meeting in August, excuse me.
All right.
Yeah, if I may, I would just like to make one little announcement for London, Britain. Our neighboring township is holding 2 events on August 19th and August 21st. That's this Thursday and this Saturday. On August 19th from 5 to 7:30, there's going to be a walking tour of the Welsh Baptist Historic District, and then there will be a discussion of the Mason-Dixon line on the 21st from 12 to 3. Registration is recommended for these events if anybody is interested. And you can go just search for village tour, town talk walks and village tours online, which will take you to the Chester County Planning Commission town tours page, and you can register from that page. That's all.
Thank you, Paul. All right. Greg Sachs, if you're here, could you provide us an update on the Park, Recreation, and Open Space Committee from your meeting on August the 4th?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, Greg.
So, yeah, I got some updates. So, start with the Healing Garden. We're making progress there. We've been working with the FSA, who has been kind enough to offer their volunteer services. And they have started doing some work. They removed the shrub where we're going to install the new entryway, which makes the gardens much more accessible. They also started ripping out some of the rotted wood timbers that are in there. They are going to continue on that project and will be cutting and replacing the new timbers, as well as performing some weeding, which, if you've been to the gardens, it definitely is ready for some weeding. The actual plant installation, we're shooting for mid-September for the installation from Red Tail Restoration. So we're going to go ahead and get the weeding completed before that, and do some of the other work involved. So we're working thankfully with Bob and Jim and the rest of that crew to get some of that stuff done to cut back on costs. We'll also work with Signature Landscaping and Red Tail Restoration. We did receive the donation from the Nancy D. Davidson Memorial Foundation, which is a great help in the cost and making this a successful project. As far as signage, we're working on exploring some signage for the gardens, but that is kind of something that'll come on later once the gardens are installed. We're also working on finding some signage for the meadow by the entryway and the tennis courts there. Another project that we've brought up in the past is the memorial trees and the memorial benches for residents and people who want to memorialize people by, sponsoring a tree installation or a bench installation. We have finally received our 3 quotes for that from different local nurseries. The 3rd quote came in just yesterday, so we're still gonna go through that, work on our plaque recommendation and which nursery we're gonna recommend to you guys. Just some updates on some of the work that's been completed for people that are unaware. The tennis court center fence has been installed, so that project is now complete and it looks great. The seal coating has been completed, and that was the entryway the driveway and the parking lot there. The basketball courts as well were done. I know the FSA also helped out with doing some of the painting on the basketball courts and the tot lot, so we thank them for that. Another thing we've kind of focused on is the invasive poison hemlock, which has taken over a big section of the meadow in Franklin Preserve. I met with Steve Cottrell, who is the gentleman who's offering to volunteer and do some invasive plant removal. And we went and took a look at it, and there's basically one of the meadows in Franklin. It's basically the first meadow that you get in on some of the new trails is completely full of the invasive hemlock. For those that don't know, that's, it's a dangerous plant. It's not only invasive, but it's toxic. It can cause, rashes, and has even been known to kill people. So it's a serious thing that needs to be addressed. And what we've kind of gotten from it, I mean, it's a problem much bigger than our township. It's all over the state and all over other states, and seems to be growing. But what our plan is to try to mow that section more than once next year. Try to get the seed heads before they get to that point and are able to produce more seeds. It's a biennial plant, so if you can cut it down before it gets to those seeds, you're definitely going to make progress on it. There's some other items that are, I know, on the agenda under under the business section. So I'll leave those to be discussed later on. But that's all I had for now. So any questions or comments?
I have a question on that hemlock, Greg.
Yeah.
I've been reading about it. There's restrictions on how and when you should take it out, like once it flowers. I got to read more about it, but are you aware of that? Like, it's restrictive how you take care of it too, or you could end up spreading it more than just taking the little patch you're working on out. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I mean, I know you want to get it. It's a biennial, so the first year
Okay.
it produces like a rosette, which is like a short little plant. It
Right.
doesn't produce seeds at that point. So we were considering having Steve go through there and using a spray for it. But it's a huge, it's a good sized meadow, and for
Right.
it, if you were going to use a machine and have kind of like a broadcast sprayer that you drive through there, that would be an option. But he's kind of a one-man operation who goes, he does it by hand. So it's bigger than he can handle doing it that way. I think as long as you can get to it before it produces the seed, then you're gonna, cut it back.
I guess what I'm asking, are we beyond that point, Greg? Because it's flowering now.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
we're well beyond that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been there. It's been there for some time. So there's seeds in the soil going forward already.
Okay.
But it's it's going to be a process. We're going to have to cut it back, right before these new plants produce seed, just to slow the process down.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I would guess at least 2 acres worth of pretty much mostly that plant.
Okay.
And this hiking trail goes right through the middle of it. So it's a concern for sure.
Yeah.
And it's all over the place. I've seen it all over other people's private property, other townships, parks and preserves. But yeah, I mean, it's something that needs to be tackled. There was some information added on the township website, just to make residents more aware of it. But it's a nasty plant, and there's a lot of articles out there coming out on it, and it seems to be thriving for some reason.
Greg, Greg, you said it was poisonous, and I know it is poisonous to humans. Is it poisonous to horses and dogs?
Yes.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's toxic to animals, so you can't even use, if you chop it down, and you can't use it for feed or anything like that.
No.
So,
if
yeah.
the plant touches your skin, you can get rashes and welts and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, poison ivy. So it's something to familiarize yourself with if you're not familiar with it, and stay far away from it.
All right. Any more questions for Greg? Okay. Well, then let's move on to the comprehensive plan. Kathy Goen will give us a brief update about the July 27th, 2021 meeting. Are you with us, Kathy?
Hi there. Can you hear me?
I sure can. Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Kathy.
Hope everyone is well. I would like to start by always thanking my colleagues on the task force, all volunteers, for selflessly giving their time and attention to our township's comprehensive plan. It's always a pleasure to work with all of you. And I'd like to remind the board and the public that all of our meetings are public and held the fourth Tuesday of every month. And they're also available for viewing on YouTube, so everyone can play along. At our last meeting, we reviewed the chapter that covered the Kemplesville Village enhancements. And as a follow-up to our review of the chapter that was called Resource Protection as Green Infrastructure from the June meeting, the task force reviewed draft conceptual trail maps to propose for inclusion in the final version of the comp plan. And then next week, we are going to review the roads and other community infrastructure chapter, and hope you can join us.
Kathy, do you know when that chapter will be available for us to look at?
I don't know the exact date, Donna, but I just was talking with Janine earlier today. I know she would like to get it out before the weekend.
Okay, that would be great.
Yep.
So you can make sure I get a copy of it. I'll be on vacation next week, but I can review it and then send comments to you and Joan so you have them.
Oh, thanks. Enjoy your vacation. I will also be on vacation next week, but I think I'm going to be able to call in for the meeting.
Okay,
but thank
great.
you.
Well, enjoy yours too.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be at the same place. Let's hope.
That would be fun.
All right. Any questions for Kathy or any comments? All right. Let's start our business section. Donna, can you pick it up?
Oh, we're moving so fast. Okay, so we're going to talk about the road program, right? That's what's next. So Ron Reagan provided a spreadsheet with a brief update on the road program. Joe, did you want me to talk about it, or you or Jeff? And then I do have a couple comments to make.
Well, what they completed since the last meeting was the Hess Mill Road stormwater project. All of that pipe is in, and let's see what else was new. We have the pipe for the Duncan Lane. That's ready to be installed. And also the inlet box for the Cavender Lane stormwater project. We have that in-house, and Jim's going to schedule that to go in to as soon as the weather is good enough. So that's where we are as far as the stormwater work. And we're still waiting to get a confirmation from Longs if they can take us a little bit earlier than October. They said they would see what their schedule provided.
Okay, good. So I do want to comment. There was when we were doing the road program and talking about it, our engineer Ron made it very clear it was important that we got some stormwater work done. So this work is critical to our road program, and in particular the Hess Mill project was 1,000 feet of pipe and the installation of inlet box. And I just want to call out Jim DeRazio and his group because they've done an excellent job installing that. I also know previous to this meeting, they also done some work on Churchill Road and Hilltop. And that was another area that was called out at a road meeting where we have ice in the winter, and people that drive that, it can be very treacherous. And it's due to an underground stream, and I know that they did some work with a French drain to fix that. So I think just so the public knows, we have a pretty aggressive road program this year. We have a lot we want to accomplish, but we're doing the proper prep work to make sure that it's a successful program and that it lasts a long time. And Jim's playing a big role in making sure that we get that right. So I just want to make that comment. So thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I have some comments about Yardworks. I want to take this opportunity to commend Yardworks for the high quality infrastructure maintenance and capital improvements they provided over the 10 years I've been served on the board. They provided a full range of maintenance functions, road construction, winter road maintenance, stormwater facilities, underground piping systems, inlet repair and cleaning, roadside vegetation clearance, and day-night clearance of obstructions, trees, washouts, etc. Also, infrastructure inspection and scope development for a full range of projects. And one of the most notable recent accomplishments was the replacement of the Hess Mill Bridge. Although they did not have specific experience with this bridge configuration, their vast experience in infrastructure work provided the knowledge and confidence to fully understand the characteristics of the bridge construction and executed the project with great skill and precision. Not only was the work performed to perfection, but the entire project was completed within budget and schedule. This provided Franklin Township residents with a durable new bridge with minimum disruption to traffic flow. Kudos to Yardworks for this extraordinary capital project. All the work they do is competitively bid with unit price contracts. In many cases, the estimated costs were less than expected, and Yardworks always invoices the actual cost. So if he comes up with an estimate and it runs under, he only takes the undervalue. So Yardworks has always provided a fair and economical pricing to Franklin Township projects. There's a lot more can be said about the value that Yardworks has provided with Franklin Township, but I think it summarizes in a really short paragraph, and they provided great service to this township over the years that I've been here. So we appreciate that very much.
All right, I'll turn it back to you, Mary.
Yeah. Any more Yardworks commercials? Otherwise, we'll move on. Dave, you're up next.
Okay, so the next item is the Crossan Park activities discussion. Assistant Manager Jeff Eastburn will start this discussion on some planned activities for Crossan Park. There's no motion required. This is just an open discussion of possible events that we might be able to hold over the next year or so at Crossan. So Jeff.
Good evening, everyone. Just to give you a brief update about our movie night, that approval process is still working its way through PICO. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll get the final okay. I have received some of their artwork that they would like to have included within any advertisements that we do. I have been in contact with the charter school, and they are also willing to advertise this on their main bulletin board, digital bulletin board out front. Right now, we have tentative dates of October 1st and October 2nd as a rain date. So with fingers crossed, we'll be able to pull that off. Several weeks ago, I had a meeting with Lieutenant Steele and Trooper Koshka. One of the items that I've wanted to have for a long time at the park would be to celebrate a community and a first responder appreciation day. We talked about this at length. They did look at the park, and I think we're really impressed by it. And I wanted to get the board's feedback. It seems like the state police are going to do their best to have a helicopter present, the mounted police, rescue dogs. We also want to include the fire companies because we want to show our appreciation to them as well. And we are talking about a proposed date of May 14th, 2022, with a rain date of May 21st, 2022. So I plan on splitting up responsibilities with Trooper Koshka. And I hope to get with Kathy going, if she's still on, and get a lesson in food trucks and how the township ought to be handling that. So if the board has any questions, I'll certainly try and answer them for you.
No, I think this is all great. I mean, I'm pleased that, you know, we're starting to think about our park, and the number of volunteers that are, you know, kind of coming out of the woodwork to help with some of this process is really encouraging. So, you know, I think one of the things that where we're at, Jeff, it sounds like you're still very much in the early planning phases.
Yes, sir.
And so there's not a whole lot of detail for us to sort of chew on, other than maybe asking the board to get their disposition on whether or not this is something that they think is, or that we think is worthwhile to pursue. So obviously, from what I just said, I think this is great. I think getting people out to the parks and enjoying our parks is a fantastic idea. I know the troopers that we spoke to were incredibly enthusiastic about the concept, and so you know, I think this is a worthwhile thing to do.
One thing I'll add, if you don't mind, I'm going to, for my own sake, keep an outline of things to do, and I can update the board on that on a monthly basis as to where things stand, but it will help me audibly try and keep track of things.
Can I make a comment about the activities in general? Initially, Kathy Goins' niece was going to help us, but other things in her life came up and she had to drop out. And I know, Greg, if you're still on the call, I know I reached out to you to see if there was anyone on the pro committee who would like to fill her shoes, and work with Jeff and, you know, whoever for the upcoming activities. Did you have any luck with that yet, Greg?
I did reach out to the pro board, and
Okay.
you know, I didn't get too much.
They didn't rush you?
No, I mean, I'm around and I can definitely assist as much as I can.
Okay.
But no, I mean, no one was overly excited to take on a new project at this point, I guess.
Okay. I mean, I think eventually we'll need a coordinator or whatever you want to call it to kind of dream up activities and then work.
Join the meeting.
Okay. Well, if anybody does, Greg, I guess just get back to us.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll bring it up again, and
Okay.
hopefully we can get some more assistance.
Yeah.
I just want to,
I'm
I
sorry.
agree too, Jeff, that it's a good idea, and I'm happy to help out. I don't want to be the coordinator, but I'm happy to help out. I think it's a great idea.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm really excited about this as well.
Jeff, I think it's a great idea for bringing our emergency service and security people that support our community into the park and give people an opportunity to see what they do. So I think it's a great recognition of, in addition to a good park activity, I think it's a great recognition of what they contribute to the community. So not everybody's so aware of it, so it'll be helpful.
Thank you.
All right. Any more comments or questions about our park and activities?
Greg, if you don't mind me butting in, do you want to talk about Jenny Woods?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
Are we there now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was contacted by a woman named Jenny Wood. She is a belly dancing instructor. She's also our current backup yoga instructor for the yoga class. So she's friends with the yoga teacher, but she is a belly dancing instructor. And I believe you guys were forwarded her information. She's been doing it for a while. She teaches at a couple places, but kind of hasn't been doing it because of COVID. But she's interested in doing a similar setup as the yoga class, which is a donation-based class at Crossan Park for belly dancing. And my question initially was, does she get a lot of people interested in that? And she said she has reached out to, communities and had friends who were very interested and who shared it with other people who were interested. So, in my opinion, I think it's a decent thing to give a try to. It's not going to cost us anything. And like I said, it's a donation-based class. So all it would really do is encourage more people to enjoy the outdoors and enjoy our parks.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. If someone's willing to donate their time and it's not costing the township anything. Sure.
So Greg, what do you need from us? Just that it's fine. We just give you the thumbs up. Go for it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've already been working with her on getting, making sure that she's willing to list the township and employees and the pro board and everyone involved as, additionally insured, and she's cool with that. So yeah, I mean, at this point, we're just looking to get your approval, and we can go ahead and, I know it's kind of the warm days are kind of going to be fading sooner than later. So, she might only have a couple classes at the park, but yeah, we're just kind of looking for your approval at this point.
She'll have the fall, which is nice. She, like you said, she may get you can never tell. She might get 6 weeks in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So Joan, do we need a motion, or can we just say no objection, go for it?
No, it's just, one of the programs we're going to have at the park. Now you really don't need a motion. It's the same as when we did the yoga.
Yeah, the pro board just didn't want it to be a surprise to the board. So just to keep.
No, I appreciate it. I think you should bring it to us. Well, it's just so, because if anybody had an objection, we'd like to let you know. We don't want to be surprised, but I think it's a great idea.
All right, go for it, Greg.
Cool. I will let her know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and next, I guess we'll speak about the Green Energy Alternative Ordinance update. Township Engineer Pete Eisenbrown reviewed and updated Supervisor Donna Day's version of the ordinance and provided a copy for review, which is in your book if you have one, or you got it electronically. Does anybody have any comments on that? We're not going to vote on it tonight, but it will be coming up for a vote. Yeah, we all have to read it and make any changes or comments.
So Mary, what I did was, so remember, I put the initial comments in, and then Steve created a new document, not exactly what we started with, but incorporated some of it. And so I've created another set of comments that I'm happy to share with the board, but I didn't want to share it with you for this meeting because I just completed it today. So what I noticed, that it's getting much better, in my opinion. So the board needs to look at it, but I think it's getting simpler, and I think it's getting to to achieve what we wanted to achieve. What is if a homeowner decides they would want to install solar panels, that there's a good sense of what is needed and it's not onerous, or it doesn't appear to be onerous, at least compared to what we started with. I did have some comments and some questions regarding certain things that were requested in the initial document that I reviewed that are no longer in this document, and Joe's going to take that back to Pete to find out why he did not include it in the document. And like, for example, one what had to do with the the larger facilities. So not a homeowner, but someone who wants to create solar panels, solar energy, and sell it back. So that larger grouping. We had before some requirements about the size, that you need at least so many acres of ground. There was some requirements regarding about how high it could be. There was some requirements, I'm trying to think what the last one was, about, the ground, like you have to have, like, if there's wires, that it needs to be, in the ground. So those are things that, and glare. So there was also a glare analysis. So those were the 4 things that were in the previous version for the larger facilities, not for the individual person facilities. And they're not in this version, and I just wanted to get an explanation from Pete why not. So I thought hopefully that people could look at my new comments, and I will send them out today. And then Joe will go back and talk to Pete, and then maybe we can come back prior to the next meeting with a document that we can all look at and discuss, if that makes sense.
Okay, so we're kind of passing it to next month's meeting to what we're.
Yeah, I don't think we're ready. I mean, I'm not ready yet because I have outstanding questions that haven't been answered.
Well,
but I think we're progressing. I mean, I think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and the solar farm is really the big issue, I think, rather than an individual homeowner putting some panels
right, and that's
on the
where my
roof.
comments. Yeah, that's where my comments are around the farm versus the individual person.
So we'll wait till next month and have the discussion. Okay. All right, if there are no more comments on the green energy, can we move on to traffic comment, John?
Just one more comment. So what I will do to the board, if you guys are right with this, I'll send you my comments so that you have them. And then if you have any comments on my comments, or even on the whole document, it would be really good if you sent them to Joan before the next meeting. So forward them to her, and then when she talks to Pete about the document, she can feed your comments in too. And that way, when we come back to next month's meeting, we're coming back with a document that includes our comments and Pete's addressing our comments, and then hopefully we can, have a robust conversation. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah, I
everybody
think
wants
that's
to do
great.
that, or just send your comments off to Pete, and then all of us look at that between now and next month's meeting. But either way, I think would work.
Okay.
All right, we'll look for your comments on your comments, Donna. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
All right, John, can you take the
Yeah,
next item?
We're up to the next item, which is a traffic calming policy. And the next item after that is Gypsy Hill Road traffic calming. Both of those issues are linked. Before we start into that, I wanted to see whether we had anybody from the public who was in the Gypsy Hill Road neighborhood online so that they could observe and understand some of the issues. So I don't know who's online. I can only see a few people, so I don't.
Hey, John, this is Zach Elwin. I live at the very top of Gypsy Hill Road.
Okay, you're one of the guys here. I know. I was looking at your driveway yesterday, so. Okay. Anyway, the comment Joan's gonna actually go over this policy which we've drafted, but I want to just be as concise as we can here because there are a lot of people that are interested in this. We've seen that in a petition that was submitted to us. So I want them to be able to go back and look at the tape of this meeting and at least see what we discussed. So Joan, if you want to go ahead and start that discussion, we can go ahead and the board can interact with you.
Okay. I had reached out to different municipalities to see if anyone had a traffic calming policy that they used. And I got one back that was adopted by Schuylkill Township, and then New Garden Township sent me one that they're working on. So what I did, I took some of the items that I liked from New Gardens and incorporated those into the Schuylkill Township, and then sent that off to Mark Hood, who is the LTAP instructor that has been helping us to see what he thought, and he liked that. He did come back with a few suggestions for some changes. again, it's nothing major. It's, I'm trying to find my copy. It's something, just, as I said, some minor changes. Here we go. That he, suggests that we add to or remove from this ordinance. And I did send that out to the board. I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at that, but I can go through and we can give you a finished version. And I would also like to hear from any of the board members, if you have read over the version that was given to you, if you have any questions or concerns or changes that you would like to see. One of the points that Mark Hood made that I think is important to understand is the prioritized ranking, that table that is in the PennDOT manual, and it's also in this policy that I hope we will adopt at some point. And it's prioritizes the roads that may need traffic calming. And the way Mark explained, it's not to say that does not tell you that the road needs traffic calming. It tells you, if you get more than one request, which road you would want to deal with first. So that's important to understand how that table is to be used. So if you receive 3 roads and one, the speeding is so terrible that scores so highly, in his mind, that's the first criteria right there that you need to look at. So it's to prioritize the different projects, not to necessarily say that this road needs something done with it. Just that's important to keep in mind. But did anybody have any questions about the policy was submitted?
So Joan, I was able to read it, and I think Mark Hood's. I went right to Mark Hood's version. I didn't even go to the one before that, and I agreed with all of his changes. But I do have a question about well, maybe I should just make a comment about the board. What's really good about this is that what's emphasized is the community involvement. You don't do anything unless the community wants it done. So, we as a board, of course, can make changes if we choose to, but in terms of roads, if one person comes in and says, I have a problem with this road, it's not like, okay, then we all run and quickly do something. It really involves the community, the people that actually live on that road, to make sure that they, A, buy into the fact that there's a problem, and B, buy into the solution. And so I think that's actually a really nice feature of this policy. But Joan, I have a question, because something doesn't line up for me. When I look at the traffic calming request form, which is going to be in the packet, this is the form that a resident would use if they wanted to bring to the board's attention that there's a problem with the road. And so they have a form that they can fill out. And the way I read it is, in order to even bring that petition to the township, they need to have people sign it. People in the area should sign it and support the fact of the petition. But okay, and I think that's good. But the way the policy reads, you don't bring the people in until you've gone through the prioritization process with the board, and you decide on a remedy, and then you ask the community if they're interested. And I think you should do it twice. I think there should be community involvement in the beginning for the petitioner before he brings it to the board. That it's not just a person, that person has gone out and had people sign, just like you have in your form. And then we do our prioritization, the board. And then if we decide that we should move forward and we propose a remedy, then once again we get the community involved to see if they agree with whatever that remedy is. So I would like to have two different opportunities for the community to participate.
That's a good idea, Donna, because that way we would not be doing the investigative work just on one person's request. We would know that this was a serious request because all the members of the public are interested in it. And so we could investigate what should be done or could be done, and then say, this is what we may be doing. How do you feel about that? And then they can come back with their approval or disapproval of what's suggested. So we can add that to the, someplace in here to the,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's really important to get the kind of the volume of the community input into the process pretty early to see whether we really should put in, resources to investigate here.
I think the key feature as well is it's community involvement, and you also don't want to have a situation where you're locked into action based on your policy. You want to be able to make judgments road to road, right? So if you have one concerned citizen who comes in and says, I don't like the traffic on the road, and you talk to the township and the rest of the residents don't have an issue, then the issue kind of dies, right? And if we have a policy that says, if this road meets these 3 criteria, we must act. We want to avoid those kinds of things because we don't want to be locked into those. We want to have maybe able to make some value judgments there. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. This sounds like those, it looks like this policy addresses that. So I'm okay.
Yeah, I think that's really important because you don't want to act on 1 or 2 persons say so, because I think most of these traffic calming things are fairly involved projects, involve engineering, time, and evaluation. It's really resources and money out of the township. So we want to expend that when we think it's appropriate. So you need a good bit of input in addition to the real, the real hazard issues that are identified.
Sure.
Well, I think one thing too with talking about a policy is the big issue, because once we do traffic calming on one road, let's say speed bumps, the next road comes in, they say, I want speed bumps for my road. Well, we have to have some kind of policy. Well, here's how we evaluate and here's why we do what we do. So people know, so it's not just random what we do on an individual road. The policy will be really important. And of course the residents' input, but the policy, why we do what we do, and PennDOT will help us with this, and Mark Hood, and we'll get that in place. Not that it's, the only way we can do things, but we'll have the criteria. If there's enough residents who have a concern about their road, well, we'll go to our policy. Here's what we do, and get that going. But yeah, I think the policy is really important before we do anything on any road.
I think that's important. I think we got an issue coming up, the next item on the agenda, and I think the policy would be helpful in managing that next request. So I think we really got to put our heads together on this policy now.
Right. I think that's step number 1, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, John. Before we do anything with any road, we've got to get that policy going.
I think you're absolutely right. Or otherwise, we would end up doing something that we would do something and then we find that the policy is in conflict or we didn't want it to go that way. So I think the policy would be the first thing. So I think we've got to put our heads into that thing, and hopefully by next month, we'll have all reviewed it enough that we can make some meaningful comments and bring the thing to a closer point to a finish. So.
So, Joan, what I would ask you to do, if you could send us out a clean copy, just accept all Mark Hood's comments and send us out a clean copy, then
Sure.
I'd like to get you comments back, like within the week or 2, so you have that prior to the next meeting, and I'm sure everybody else would too. I mean, if folks have read it, it's a really good start. We don't have a whole lot to do here. It's a really, really good start. So I think if you give us the clean copy of Mark's, we can build on that. And then hopefully get this thing wrapped, get it in a good place where we can talk about it.
Will do.
Okay. Zach, are you still on the meeting? I know you said you live at the top of Gypsy Hill Road.
Yeah, I'm still here. I have nothing to do with the agenda item, but I'm on primarily because I saw it.
Okay. All right. Do you want to make any comments about your road? Or, I mean, we're definitely working on calming the traffic on Gypsy Hill.
I'm not sure what the agenda item is a result of it. Like I said, it had nothing to do with me. I can say that I've actually sort of brought this up on occasion in the last 10 years or so. Okay. it is a bad, especially, I mean, literally in front of my driveway is the crest of the hill. And the problem with the hill, and it's just a geographical feature, is the one side can't see the other. And if you're off center by even the slightest little bit, you're clipping each other. On days where there's ice or snow, we've had cars going down the road sideways. We've had a school bus go down the road sideways. That's not a traffic calming issue. The township has, at my request, I think, or at least partially my request, did put up hidden driveway signs and school stop signs, and that has actually helped. But I just, again, I'm not the submitter of whatever the request is, but I will say that people fly up and down the road, and if there was a way of either slowing people down or redirecting traffic to mitigate that, that would be great. I know one item or one suggestion that's been brought up over the years, which I think is impractical because of PennDOT owning both ends of it, would be to make Gypsy Hill a one-way road. Everyone cuts that corner using Gypsy Hill Road. And like I said, the only way I can think of casually to fix the problem with vehicles not being perfectly, on their sides of the road would be to make it so that it wasn't an issue by having it a one-way road. But I don't believe that that's something the township can do ourselves. Again,
that's on the agenda for tonight's discussion. You did mention something. I'm not sure that that's an issue, that the fact that PennDOT owns both ends of it. I think the township owns Gypsy Hill Road, and I think we can do what we need to do with it within their engineering standards. So I'm not sure that that's going to impact what PennDOT's going to allow us to do. Well, that's on the agenda. There is an item to make sure that we've covered all the requirements that PennDOT or somebody else could impose on us. So
and the only reason I was thinking that is just because I would think it would require PennDOT to agree to having a one-way road adjacent or intersecting their own road. But again, don't know anything about it.
Could be. I don't know that, but that's on. We do have a bullet point on my list to look into that. So
okay.
At some point in this discussion, I do have a presentation that I want to make related to a proposal to change it to a one-way road.
I'm happy to be here and observe.
All right. So at some point in this discussion, I know there's some options to put in some speed bumps and some other things, but I did put a good bit of effort into looking into this one-way option, and I think it deserves merit to look at it. So at some point in this discussion, I'll present this thing. I've got about 3 pages of text here I display, and we can go over those issues.
Speaking for myself and at least 2 of my neighbors that I know of, they would be thrilled. So,
well, the issue, we'll get into it, but it specifically addresses the issues you have with the driveways on the downhill side.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right, Zach. Well, I don't know if you know it, but your road will be redone this year. I think you're number 1 or 2 on the list of roads to be repaved, which is wonderful, except as you know, a newly paved road, cars go faster. So we'll be working on trying to not make that happen. It could be speed humps, it could be lines painted, but yeah, all these things we'll be discussing, and hopefully we'll calm it down a bit. It's traffic calming is a problem everywhere on all the roads, and we're all battling this.
No doubt. And I would say that the lines were first put in on Gypsy Hill maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago now, and it did noticeably help, at least from my perspective at the end of the driveway, avoid people having to swerve at the last minute to avoid hitting each other. So
right. Okay, well, stay tuned, Zach. Appreciate your comments. So next on the agenda is a discussion about calming measures on Gypsy Hill Road.
Mary, I've got a presentation prepared on my proposal, so I can do that now or later, whenever you want to do it.
All right, you may as well talk about it now, John. I'm fine with that.
All right, Joan, can you share my screen here? Let me make sure I get the right file up here. Okay, is that displayed, Joan?
Not yet, John.
Okay. I'm not sure how to do that. I assume that whatever I got on my screen is going to be displayed.
You have to give him permission, Joan, to share it? Oh, she did. Okay. Yeah, I can't hear you, Joan, for some reason. John, have you hit the green button that says share screen
Oh,
at the bottom of your
there's a
screen?
green.
For me, there's a green button at the bottom of my screen. It has share screen.
Let me go back to Zoom. There's a green button. Oh, there it is, share screen. Okay, so let's see here. Which one is it here? That one. Can you see that one?
Yes. Good job.
Okay, so tonight I want to talk about kind of a unique remedy for traffic control on Gypsy Hill Road. I mean, Gypsy Hill Road has been a cut-through route for the 43 years I've lived in Franklin Township, so certainly not a new traffic pattern. So what's changed to bring about some recent attention to traffic safety on this township road? Well, primarily, we got a very strong response from the neighbors. Zach, I don't know if you're aware of that, but one of the neighbors over there did go around the neighborhood and collect quite a number of signatures on a petition asking us to engage speed bumps or whatever measures we'd come up with to manage traffic. I don't remember how many were on that. Joan might be able to tell us, but it was a significant number of people.
Probably Missy.
Pardon?
It's probably my neighbor Missy. I know she was.
It was a woman named Tracy. I don't know her.
Oh,
Is it
okay.
Tracy Lee? I'm not sure if that's her last name or not, but
That's correct.
okay. Joan, any idea how many people signed that petition? I don't have it in front of me, but
I don't either, John. I think it was in the 60s.
yeah, it was quite a few. It was quite a few pages. So that's what I talk about, a strong response from the neighborhood residents. I'm a little surprised that we don't have anybody in here, but people are busy and they don't have time to go to these meetings. So I think it's important that we document what we talk about. So kind of just looking forward in simplifying terms, the factors that are the root cause of the traffic safety hazard. And of course, speed is a contributing cause, but the issues I've got is the high traffic volume. We got a lot of traffic on that roadway in both directions, primarily because of the growth of our community. When I first moved in here, there just wasn't much traffic out. So traffic has increased significantly. And the other issue is the driver attitude and behavior. And really what I see is gross impatience with people, with somebody that's gone a little slower than they want to go and they want to pass them and they're tailgating. It's really kind of a very discourteous way to drive, but they do. And it's just another factor, the navigating systems, the GPS direct drivers to that route. So that's a motivation that brings some drivers who wouldn't normally use it go to it. So I think they're the factors that have generated the concern. So the things we would need to consider are related to any traffic control system, and every traffic controlling device or system will produce some measure of increased safety, but the benefit is almost always offset by some additional inconvenience. So no benefit comes for free of negatives. To receive something in value, you really have to give up something. So all traffic calming devices and systems require a review that balances benefits and inconveniences. And in this case, the primary stakeholders to review this are the Gypsy Hill Road neighbors. They're the ones that have generated the discussion. So they are the prime consideration in this. The proposal is to change the traffic control to one-way northbound. That would be in the downhill direction. And there are good reasons for that, and we'll get into that. And the one-way option would be unique to Franklin Township, but it is a typical remedy for neighborhoods and cut-throughs in northern New Jersey. I know of several up there that have been successfully applied. I know one specifically in Edison, New Jersey. Oak Hills was the name of the neighborhood. And they had a road that went through their neighborhood, Oak Hills Drive, and it connected two heavily traveled highways. And traffic in North Jersey is really high. So people were using this thing as a cut through. And the solution they came up with was to change the road to a one-way, essentially cutting the traffic in half. And didn't control the speed, but it did reduce the volume. And then you're only dealing with traffic coming one way. So related to Gypsy Hill Road, changing the traffic flow to one-way road northbound downhill provides some significant benefits and some inconveniences. And we'll go over all those. Although traffic speed is important, it's only a factor that contributes to the fundamental hazard. Limited sight distance is the major hazard for residents exiting their driveways and children crossing the road. The measured sight distance from observing southbound traffic on the level section of roadway is significantly less than the PennDOT minimum. Jeff Eastburn and I were out there several weeks ago with an LTAP traffic consultant measuring sight distances. We were specifically looking at Tracy Lee's driveway, looking to the right with the uphill traffic coming at her, and that was way under the required sight distance. And that's the problem that she has complained about, is that she can't get out of her driveway because traffic is on her as soon as she pulls out. And that's reduced sight distance. So I think, Jack, you got some of the same problems on your side. You have two-lane traffic. I remember I was in your neighbor's driveway some time ago and had really quite a difficult time getting out of Pat Dunn's driveway and your other neighbor on the southern side. So
yeah, it's always a challenge getting out, especially when there's traffic, because there, at least for my driveway, I can't see, because of the way the embankment is, I can't actually see to the left as I'm pulling out without the nose of my vehicle being in the road. So if someone's coming up the hill, for me to see them, I have to nose out to a place where they would probably hit me.
You'll see that that's listed as one of the benefits. So we're going to go through the benefits and the inconveniences and some other factors, and then we'll just talk about it. The primary benefit is it eliminates the southbound sight distance hazard for the driveways on the level segment, the issue I just talked about. That's not your driveway. That's Tracy Lee and the people coming out of the apartments, and there's some other folks on the other side of the road, on your side, up on the level portion, that have that issue.
The Millers and the Mowers, for sure.
Yep. And it facilitates pedestrian crossing with one-way traffic. They only need to look one way. And you'll see then the sight distance will be much better with the change in direction. It also will reduce the traffic volume by about 50%. And the one-way traffic flow also eliminates the serious potential for head-on collisions right at the crest of the hill, because as you suggested earlier in the discussion, you can't see the other traffic till you're nose to nose. So if everybody's not on the right side of the road, there's a potential there. So the next item, and I kind of listed them in order of I thought their importance was, that the diverted traffic on Route 841 will have a safer passage through the four-way stop at 841 and 896, because both of those roads are better equipped to handle traffic than Gypsy Hill Road. They're state roads, they're wider, they have fog strips on the side, they got center line issues, they're not confined by terrain as Gypsy Hill is. So diverting the traffic on the 841 provides a safer passage for the traffic, avoiding Gypsy Hill. And then continuing a routine use of the southbound traffic direction could convince some drivers to avoid Gypsy Hill entirely, even though it's still a one-way road. The other advantage we could do is we could put road stripe markings on the downhill side, right-hand lane. That's your section. because there's a tunnel effect of the terrain, a stop at the bottom will also provide a slowdown, an automatic slowdown for drivers. So what the proposal there is if you go one way, is just not leave the road all open so that people can use the whole road, is to segregate the traffic into a right-hand lane so that the driveways on the left side heading downhill, which would be your driveways and 3 others, could get the nose of their car out a little further and see what's coming down the hill. Yeah, and I already talked about that, number 8. The existing radar system has worked well in the top section. It does get people to pay attention to their speed. Before we had that in there, the guy that owns the apartments was fixing that fence about every 6 months or so. And
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's ran into it since then. So then the single direction traffic will be safer, as the terrain effect you can't improve the terrain. It's just what it is. It's a tunnel. So we can't make the road wider. But now we're into the inconveniences, and we talked about that before, is that for the through traffic, southbound on 841, including emergency vehicles, the average travel time added by avoiding Gypsy Hill Road is 22 seconds. Jeff Eastburn did some very accurate timing of taking various routes, and he collected quite a bit of data, and we averaged it out. So taking the longer route, southbound on 841 to 896 and then left 896 southbound, the extended travel time is 21 seconds. So you're not really extending the traffic time for people going through, and that includes emergency vehicles. For residents coming out of there, the inconvenience is bigger, because the residents heading southbound, say they'd want to go southbound, their route would have to start, instead of turning toward 896 southbound, they'd have to go northbound, down the hill to 841, a left turn at the bottom of the hill, a left turn on 896 to the Gypsy Hill Road intersection. And the average time added there by the one-way option is a little less than 2 minutes. So it is an inconvenience factor. And we did talk about the fact that there will be an inconvenience to gain some measure of safety. So then there's another factor for emergency vehicle response to Gypsy Hill Road residents. The time could increase to 2 minutes for response to emergency vehicle to one of those locations, because they'd have to travel around and avoid the one-way section. So there is a downside there on emergency response to people who live on Gypsy Hill Road. It could be as much as 2 minutes, depending on where the emergency vehicle is coming from and what his destination is on Gypsy Hill Road. But the longest travel time I could find was 2 minutes. Then just on implementation, I just got a bunch of bullet points for it would be a small investment to validate or abandon the option. It wouldn't take a whole lot of money and material to do this. So I think it would be a low cost to implement. The material required would be minimal, I think, signs and a few other miscellaneous stuff. We'd need traffic signs at each end of Gypsy Hill Road, one way, do not enter. We probably would need some temporary flashing beacons for quite a while to alert people to change. And other placards may be indicated by LTAP. And LTAP is our traffic control consultants. The other thing, on the downhill side, we would need a stop ahead sign so that the downhill traffic doesn't go too fast. I'm not so worried about them going real fast downhill, because everybody knows you got to stop at the bottom. So you can't go too fast or you're not going to stop. Anybody who drives that road knows that that's a hard stop if you go too fast. So the other thing we could just put up there, even though we don't have a photo camera, we could put a sign up that it's a photo speed check. provide some deterrence. Just going on to the notes, the roads should be striped with 2 white lines to establish the preferred lane, one-way northbound, which would put the traffic on the right-hand side going down the hill. That's where the driveways on the left-hand side on the downhill portion would get more sight distance because they could put the nose of their car out a little further, see the traffic coming. So it improves the sight distance. I think the one-way option is viable and should be fully developed before we engage in expensive temporary speed bump solution. The change does not provide a complete remedy. We can always add speed bumps. Speed tables also provide an inconvenience factor for travelers. So they're not without an inconvenience. So we would need to check a bunch of ordinances related to one way, which would be through LTAP and LTL and other engineering resources. I think that's really all I have on there. Certainly it's open for discussion, but I'll get this document out. I just got this finished today. So I'll get that document out to the board and whoever else is interested. So,
Would you mind if I added one more point to your presentation?
yeah, that's why we're here. I just want to lay the groundwork for a discussion here.
Another like second order effect might be to actually make the southbound intersection of 896 and Gypsy Hill Road by the church a little safer, because if you're not having traffic trying to go out onto 896 at that entrance, that's traditionally been a very bad intersection as well, because if you're making a left turn to go south on 896, the traffic coming from your right that's cresting that hill, it's almost impossible to, like, basically from the time I would try, if I stop at that stop sign and I go to turn left, I can start moving, not see anyone, but someone cresting that hill only has a second or so to react to me before they have to, step on their brakes or whatever. It's been mitigated slightly by, I think you guys put up a road 450 feet ahead sign or something, but it would, I think, also have a knock-on effect of reducing that traffic interaction.
Well, I think you're entirely right there. I mean, the way that most people do it and the way I do it, you pull up to the intersection and you look to your left to be sure that you have a really large gap to your left. Then you look to your right. If you don't see anything, you go quickly.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it. But just another point about that is I think eventually traffic in that direction on Gypsy Hill Road will reduce, because as traffic increases on 896, it'll be harder and harder to get out on that roadway through that stop sign, because at certain times of the day, you can't get out there.
No, that's exactly right.
So I'll put that down as another benefit that eliminates that. I didn't pick that up, but that's insightful. So,
John, I have a question for you, and I'm trying to kind of looking ahead to the future, and I don't know how long that is, but we know they're going to be working on that intersection 896 and 841, and I would imagine that they have to close things down, right? Like what if they what would you do? So if Gypsy Hill was one way, and that was closed down because they're working on it, what have we done? I mean,
well, you have to generate another detour. You'd probably have to go down 841, probably to Peacedale, and come back up into Kimblesville through Peacedale or Walker. I mean, it's unfortunate when you do major road work, you need to just generate detours. The detours are not convenient and not the best roads, but you take the best detour that you can come up with. So there are detours available. The one I just suggested are viable. But
would that also be true for an emergency vehicle? Do you think? I don't know what that. I mean, I don't know how concerned I should be, because I don't know. First of all, I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm assuming it's going to happen. PennDOT told us it is, and I don't know how long that it takes. Is it something that's going to take a year?
I'm not sure we can wait for that. I mean, we talked about that project back in 2014 or 15, and I think PennDOT said that they were going to complete the thing in 2017. Obviously, that didn't happen. And the last I'd heard is they're going to do it in 2020. And that didn't happen. So waiting for a project like that, we can't wait for something like that. That could never, it's possible. It
Any
can
sense
never.
of how long the road would be closed? Like, once they decide to start it, how long it would be closed? Is that something that's weeks, months, years?
I would say don't know. I don't know. There is major terrain work that's got to be done on that roadway. I don't know what the schedule looks like, but you can't wait for that. There are viable detours that will be available, and you just have to use them. Not convenient, but that's the nature of road construction. So
Yeah, I just worry
I'm not sure we consider that.
So here's an option. If we decided to make Gypsy Hill a one-way road, can you temporarily make it a two-way road during that construction?
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know. I think
No.
I think it's really it's quite a chore, I believe, to change it to a one-way road.
Yeah.
And to get people to do that and then change it back for a while and back again. I don't know, David. That's
well,
I
it could
think
be
that's
20 years.
confusing.
It could be 20
breaking the
years
habit
before that.
established too.
No, that's
that
true.
would be something you had to talk to LTAP about
Yep.
how you actually
Yeah.
implement it. But
So, yeah, and so that was just a thought, but I think from where I'm at on this is there's two issues. You touched on one of them. Is the primary complaint wasn't road volume, it was road speed.
right.
And so, and you mentioned that, which is fine. It's not going to necessarily address road speed. And sometimes what'll happen on a one-way street is it actually increases the speed of the road because the driver has a sense of comfort. So that being said, what I think we will end up having to do anyway is put in speed, there's whatever other mitigating, traffic mitigating item, which is speed bumps, or if we put features into the road to slow traffic down. So I think the root problem is the speed. That's what people were complaining about and are concerned about. So I'm not sure if this solves the problem. So let me back up again. As far as making it a one-way road, that's a separate issue. That's an overall road safety issue, right? And I can't disagree with anything that you'd said about this one-way road. That the southbound intersection is a nightmare pulling out of. It's a blind road. So if we were to decide to do this, I think what I would need to vote yes on this is the majority of the residents on that road supporting the idea.
Absolutely.
And that would be really the crux of it, because it's, it might inconvenience me, but I don't live on the road and I don't face the danger of that road. So for my yes vote, I would just need a majority of those residents showing up at a meeting or filling out a petition that says, here's my address, I vote yes, and we're move ahead with it. So that would be my first piece. My second piece is getting some insight from our emergency services and how it might impact them, and how we might, some items we might not be considering as they navigate our township, because our roads are winding and so those are the two things I'd be concerned about, and that's the input I want.
I agree with the emergency service thing. When that first was put to the fire company in Medic 94, of course they don't want to change, they'd rather not change, but when you look at the emergency service access as a through passage, whether they're going one direction or the other, they only pick up 21 seconds of travel time. Not particularly significant. They might even be going faster and the interval might be less, but so I don't think they lose much there. The biggest worry is an emergency that would occur in the neighborhood where the emergency vehicle would have to make a roundabout way to get in. And I estimated that at any location that wouldn't increase it over 2 minutes. So that's a factor.
Yeah.
But I mean, their position's always going to be leave the road wide open. That's their position. So we would need to understand their concerns, and I think they're worth pursuing. To your other point about speed, I think speed is what people perceive as the problem. But the real problem is they can't see the traffic coming because their sight distance is short. And with the speed the cars are coming, they don't have enough time to react. So it's not necessarily the speed, it's the sight distance. And if you correct some of that, and this thing will, then the speed becomes less of a problem. I didn't say it's the only problem, but there are mitigating factors to the speed by eliminating the short sight distance, by eliminating southbound traffic on Gypsy Hill Road. So I think that's the proposal. I think we need to get some resident input. I wouldn't take a step forward on this thing until we get some more input. So I think we've documented it well enough in this meeting that those folks can look at this thing and come back with questions. We certainly would accommodate them in another meeting. But I think that's where we go with this particular proposal. Now, there are other proposals we'll talk about, I'm sure.
I mean, John, if you don't mind me saying, and again, it's just me. I don't know everyone's mind, but I know every neighbor I've ever spoken to about it would be in favor of it. I can't say that I've spoken to everybody that lives in the apartments over the years, but everyone on my side of the road would absolutely love it.
Well, if you could distribute the information, that would be helpful.
I will absolutely I'll talk to Pat and Fred and Missy and the Millers. I'm guessing, and I'm sorry, I don't know her name, but I'm guessing the person that did the petition is probably
It's Tracy Lee. She's the one with the white fence just
it used
top
to
of
be
the hill.
house, yeah. Sorry, I've lived here for too long. I'm not doing anything officially, obviously, but I'm happy to talk to my neighbors and at least raise a little bit of awareness. I don't know that you're going to get a huge response in terms of people showing up to a meeting because people just don't do that.
Well, I know I could contact some of them. I do have email addresses for Fred and Pat, and I think there's a person down there. She's in the medical business. I don't know. That's your neighbor to your right.
That's Missy.
Yeah, Missy. I've talked to her. I don't know the folks on the bottom.
Yeah, they come and go. That house has been changed hands a bunch of times. But I know my immediate neighbors on either side would be thrilled.
So Zach, you made a good point that not people don't like to come to these meetings, but it's just a matter of contacting the office and just, I hate this idea, or it's a good idea, or it's an idea that I think is worth pursuing. If they could just feedback somehow into to Joan, I would hope they're inconvenienced. And I mean, I know you've talked about this a number of times for years, how difficult it is to get out of your driveway. I think you'd pick up the phone. You don't have to do it now, but I think you would pick up the phone and said, "Yeah, I'm in agreement with this."
Oh yeah.
Or I hate it. Just want to know.
I mean, and John, you said you have a contact for the person that owns the apartments. That might be a good vector to get.
I know a few people in there, but not many of them.
Okay.
Of course, I know your immediate neighbors on each side of you, and maybe one other at the top of the hill, but I don't have a comprehensive way to reaching out to all of them by any means. So,
okay. Well, like I said, I can talk to the folks on my side of the road at a minimum. I know all of them.
Right.
So,
all right. As a go-do out of the meeting, I'll forward this information to you and everybody that's on this meeting. Of course, we have other options to talk about, so we're not finished with this discussion. There's a whole option here related to speed bumps we probably need to look into.
Okay, I think trying to wrap this up and move on. The one caution I would say about making Gypsy Hill one way, I think some things we have to address first. One, can we do it? We need to talk to LTAP, PennDOT. We also need to talk to the emergency vehicles. My caution would be, I don't want to get the people who live on Gypsy Hill Road all excited. If we sign the petition, it'll be a one-way road, and then we say, "Oh no, we're not going to do that." I don't want that phone call. So I think we need to proceed. We have a lot of groundwork to do before we start going around and say, sign the petition if you want it a one-way road, because we may not be able to do it. We're just not sure yet.
Well, we gotta look into that, but parallel to that, you need to get people involved.
Yeah, but I don't.
The more people you have involved in it, if they agree with it, then you get the force of a large group of public. That's pretty strong to any organization trying to oppose you.
All right. Well, I think we talked about this and we got to talk about it more and other options, and there's a lot of work to be done on this. So I think we could move on to the next item. Donna, can you talk about the hybrid meeting?
Just one point, Mary, because I think the public should know that we have time. So we can take a deliberate approach because the road has to be done first, and that's not going to happen until the fall. So we're not trying to put anybody off, but we have the opportunity to get our policy in place and then to fully vet this in a way that we can make a good decision. So,
and I feel, Donna, at this point, I've talked to some of the residents and said, I just want you to know the township's aware of the issue, aware of the problem, and we're working on it, but it will not happen overnight. It's a process and we're working on it, and any input they want, fine, but we've got a lot of work to do before we make any decisions.
Mary, I'm not ready to close this issue out.
No,
I mean, the whole discussion here that Jeff and Joan did a whole lot of research on speed bumps, and I think that information, it's in the book. I think they ought to review it and put that out in public. So all this stuff's available in this particular meeting video.
Right. And one thing Jeff researched were these signs that flash, what your speed is and if you're speeding. But the new ones out there take a picture, and if you're speeding, they send you a notice in the mail. I don't know if the notice is a speeding violation. I don't know what it is, but that I think would be very effective, because I'm guessing most of the traffic on Gypsy Hill is the same day in and day out. Not everyone, but a lot of it. It's the same people using that road. I don't use it. I go out to 841 because I won't make that left-hand turn to head south on 896. Too dangerous. It's exactly what you said, Zach. There's no one coming until you start turning, and then somebody's almost in your trunk. It's frightening. So I don't use it, but I guess some people are going to take the 21-second shortcut. But we'll see. There's a lot of, I think if you're talking to your neighbors, Zach, just let them know it is something the township's working on, and it's not going to happen overnight, but something will be done down the road.
So I think the next step is Joan and Jeff have a nice package they put together for other traffic mitigating. So can we go through some of the other options, please?
Exactly. So Joan and Jeff, if you could present that information. I know that I did meet with the supplier of some of that material, so I only got a cursory overview of how it works, but I know you spent some time with them, so I'm kind of expecting you're going to give us a report on it.
Jeff, I'll start and then you can finish. We did meet with Traffic Logic, John Painter from Traffic Logic, who supplies a rubber version of speed hump, speed tables, speed cushions. And we went over the different options with him and the different times you would use those. And Jeff and I think both feel that the speed cushions would be the best option if we decided to do that on that road, because it allows emergency vehicles to proceed at a normal speed, because the cushions are narrow enough that their wheelbase spans the cushion, but a normal car or truck can, and they have to slow down where the emergency vehicles don't. And I know Mark Hood, when we talked with him, he liked that idea, and he and Jeff are working on possibly, if we went that route, doing a demonstration for LTAP with the installation of the speed cushions. Jeff, do you want to add anything?
Right now, with LTAP, they like the idea of the speed cushions, as well as Justin Gaetano from West Grove Fire Company. It seems like they could live with the speed tables, but prefer the speed cushions. They did supply me with very detailed drawings of their emergency equipment, which if there's any board members interested, I'm more than happy to send it to you. And after discussions with LTAP, right now, they feel the 6-foot wide speed cushions would be most advantageous, would work the best, and still allow emergency vehicles to pass through. One thing we do need to do is, and LTAP reminded Joan and I of this, they cannot design or say exactly where to place them. So we will at some point need to engage Ron Reagan to help us with that. Does anyone have any questions? I'm happy to try and answer them.
Yeah, Jeff, the only reservation I have about these rubberized devices, that they're attached to the road with a series of expansion bolts. And my expectation is that the snow plows are going to beat the crap out of them. That's so I would say if you select that, I think we need to build some annual maintenance into maintaining those, because you'd have to lift the plow very precisely every time you approach one without taking it off the road. So
Absolutely. And Mark Hood liked what was done on Old Schoolhouse Road with the delineators there.
Yep.
Especially having the red ones in the center.
Yep.
So right now, I know we're not making decisions, and I can appreciate that. If we're talking about speed tables, there would be a set of 3 of those, and we're talking in the neighborhood of $14,524. And I will get the speed cushions here in a moment. The speed cushions, if we go with the 6-foot wide ones, we are talking $15,332. But they have been in existence in places for up to 10 years. That's at least the records that I can find right now.
So Jeff, the 15,000 is the total cost? Is that what you're saying? Because we need a couple of them, right? So that would be the total cost?
LTAP is recommending 3 of them. And one of the keys they're stating is they need to be closer together. So we have a general idea. There's a memo from Mark Hood in your books, and those marks are a general location, but will need to be refined if the board so chooses to go that route.
Yeah.
My question to you is that the 15,000 covers the cost for the cost to buy them and install them.
That's to buy them.
Okay, not to install them yet. Okay.
That's correct. And what I've been trying to work with LTAP is to have them have a class where we could have surrounding municipalities install them under the instruction of an LTAP teacher. So that's something, it's been positively received by them, but they haven't given a definite yes. But I would imagine to install them, you're probably looking roughly at 2 days' time.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's not. So if we have to pay for it, it's not going to be cheap.
And
okay.
I'm just going to say this. I don't want anyone holding me to it, but if we have to pay to have them installed, I'm guessing somewhere around 3,000 to 4,000. And I just want everyone to understand that's just an educated guess.
Right.
Well, Jeff, what would be the cost of putting these things in an asphalt, which would be far more durable? I think what we did on Old Schoolhouse Road, we put in 4 of them, and it seemed like the price was around 23,000. I'm not sure whether that's correct or not, but
Then to be honest with you, John, I don't have that figure right in my head right now. I'm not
it's
sure.
just a vague number in my mind, so it could be way off, but that's the number that comes up in my head here.
You're on mute, Joan.
That's very close, John.
Okay, because if we put them in an asphalt, then I think the snowplow issue is not, it doesn't eliminate it because they still take a beating, but I don't think you'll clean them off the way with these rubberized ones screwed down with bolts. So I think the asphalt ones would be more effective. The only other comment I got about the speed bumps is I did some research. I got some research from London Grove Township, which I know the supervisors up there. They had a neighborhood, a very high density neighborhood that had a lot of houses in it. And the neighbors clamored for speed bumps because of bad behavior of drivers. That's unfortunately a universal problem. And it got to the point where London Grove Township wouldn't put them in, but the neighbors agreed to pay for them themselves out of the HOA funds. And they put them in about 3 or 4 years ago. And now everybody wants them to be removed. So they're not as popular as you might think. With the
Yeah,
neighbors.
I think, yeah, John, I think the reason we were looking at these temporary speed bumps was just for that purpose, right?
Yeah, so you can get rid of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you know, I think it's because it's, again, as we're having this conversation, you know, and none of these options to slow traffic down is cheap. The option of, you know, we have the one-way street option doesn't necessarily slow traffic. It's cheap, essentially the cost of signs and lines, but
it may be more expensive than you think when you add it all up. So I wouldn't minimize it.
But it doesn't address the speed on the streets. Usually you have to put some sort of physical impediment in the way of the car to slow it down, whether it's changing the structure of the road, or putting in speed bumps or putting in rotary, whatever it is. So my take on this is, you know, as we explore these different options, one, we have to look at flexibility, and that comes at probably an increased cost. So if we do put in speed humps, it doesn't rectify the problem, and two, the residents complain about it, it's very simple to remove something that's just bolted in.
That's true. Yeah.
And so that's the benefit, right? You're paying for the versatility. The other issue, of course, with these rubber speed bumps is it's very temporary in nature. However, when you say, you know, they last upwards of 10 years, that's about the lifespan of a road. When you start looking at fixing roads, high volume roads, you start looking at 10 years anyway. So just throwing it out there to keep it in mind when people are thinking about cost and length of time, that it's when you're talking about the roads, these are the perspectives that you want to think about. So yeah, that's all I have to add on that.
All right, I think we have a pretty good discussion. We've talked about all the potential issues. So if somebody wants to watch this thing, and one of the residents could watch it, or they get some indication of what the possibilities are for a remedy here. But at this point here, I wouldn't be inclined to do it. I think, although we have a petition with that many people on it, that's not minor. Those people could all show up and could easily show up. So I wouldn't completely ignore it. But at this point, I'm not sure we want to take any real action till we get some more input.
Just a general question for the board, and I could personally go either way on this. Do you think it would be worthwhile selecting one or two videos from Traffic Logics that show the use of a speed table and speed cushion, or do you think I'm jumping the gun with that?
You could post them on the website, so I don't see any problem with that. we could post this information on a website.
Okay, I
Yeah,
just wanted to make sure you would be okay with, a video or two that shows them in action.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jeff, the important thing is that the residents that this is impacted, that we give them every opportunity to see what we're talking about and comment on it, right? So we don't want to make these decisions in a vacuum, and we want to make sure that the residents have all the information that we have when we're making our decisions. So.
And two, Jeff, people won't know like what's a speed cushion, what versus a speed bump. Whereas if you put the videos up on the website, that's where they can get the information when they have time to get it.
Absolutely, and I'll have to go back and find it, but there was an excellent video I found which talked about the difference between a speed bump, a hump, a table, and it was great, and I think it would help the residents.
Absolutely.
It talked about these items can be used at certain speed limits, so I think it would help them a lot.
Yeah. All right. All right. Any more comments on traffic calming, Gypsy Hill Road? Okay, if not, Donna, could you pick up the next item on the agenda, please?
Sure, Mary.
Thank you.
So the next item we want to talk about is the concept of a hybrid meeting. And I think most people are aware that we are trying to get back to some type of in the township office type meeting. But we do appreciate the fact that the residents participate remotely and they have that access via their computers at home. So we want to make sure that we do that in a way that if we're at the township and you're at your home, that you can see what we're, hear us, see what we're saying, follow the conversation. And so Joan and Jeff have done a lot of work, Mary and Melissa also, to figure out what's the best option for that. And they've actually had people come in. We've been able to try it out. And there was one option delivered to us from Delaware Audio Visual that worked extremely well. And people, either people that were in the township office and people that were at home calling in, both had a positive response to how they followed that discussion. And so what we'd like to do tonight, if this is the right order, is to vote on it. There's certain equipment that we have to buy. The good news is that the money that the federal government has allocated to us allows us to use, we can use those funds to pay for this, because I know it is a little expensive, but this current administration is really built on transparency and keeping the residents engaged, and I think this feeds into that theme of good equipment that will deliver a meeting to our residents, whether they're at home or if they're in the township with us. And so I'm going to put that motion out there, and then I guess we can discuss it. So I'll make the motion, Mary, and then we can talk about it. So I make the motion for the board to approve Delaware Audiovisual for implementing the audiovisual integration and design solution for Franklin Township, not to exceed $21,299.
I'll second.
Can I have a second? Thank you, John. All right, so I kind of gave you the introduction, but I want to turn it over to the board members for their comments.
Yeah,
I'd like to just say something, if I may. You can proceed if you like, but Jeff can display the video from that demonstration if you'd like to see that first before you start your discussion, or we could show it afterwards, whatever you choose.
I personally don't need to see it. I'm
Okay.
committed to
Okay.
this. And I know David and John, you were actually part of it, so you.
Yeah, I witnessed it remotely and found that the video and audio quality was excellent, and the way it worked, functioned, and allowed the speaker to turn his microphone on, and a camera would go to that particular person. It also allowed a discussion back and forth from one supervisor to the other. So once I saw that, I was really pleased, because the first video demonstration we had was quite frankly, a debacle. And
It's a disaster. I thought I was going to have a.
oh, that's right. You were
seizure.
there. You were there. Yeah, I sent them a rather strong memo, and that just ended that one. But this group here
Yeah.
was
Now,
on a different level.
Jeff, how long is this video you have of the, when they did the demonstration?
It's about 20 minutes, but
Yeah,
it's
I don't-
easy
Yeah.
to, it's easy to start and stop it, if
I
you
don't
miss
think we
30
don't
seconds.
need to
No.
see a video of us
No.
talking about the video.
No.
Great.
So, I think that there's I was impressed with the device. One of the things that you want to look for when you're buying something like this is ease of use.
Right.
Not all of us are comfortable with the technology. This is, you turn it on and it works, and it was very simple to understand. The crew that they had there were very easy. They were, they answered our questions in a clear manner that we could understand. So John was online. I was in the room with some of the staff, and we were all just kind of talking back and forth. There was very little. The technology got out of the way. We just had our meeting, and it was simple. So, I think it's worthwhile pursuing. We can continue the conversation, but I think this is the right system for us. And once the residents start seeing it in action, they'll be happy as well.
Well, and I guess a point Donna made, we are getting federal funds to cover the cost of this. So it's not coming out of, our township budget. I mean, it's everybody's tax dollars. I understand that, but we didn't expect this money, and we do have to do this. I mean, Governor Wolf lifted the restrictions, and we need to have a place where people can physically go to attend the meeting. And this accomplishes all of it, that it'll deal with anyone in the room or at home. So,
You can recognize people. The quality is amazing.
Exactly.
It's exactly what we need and we're looking for.
And
Yeah.
just as a point of reference, the cost of the equipment for that terrible, terrible system that we first witnessed was $15,000 at least. So this is a little bit more, yes, but the difference is unbelievable.
I think David said it all, is that we had a meeting and talked back and forth, and the technology wasn't an impediment. So if you didn't talk
Right.
about the technology and you were able to communicate, that's a strong validation of the equipment.
yeah. And the
Joe, some
fa-
questions. So if they're the $21,299 not to exceed, will that cover the cost of them installing whatever they need to install?
Yes,
Good.
yes, and
And
a
do we-
year of support.
Perfect. Okay, that was my next thing. Okay, and do we get like any kind of insurance policy on the technology? I don't. Sometimes you get. I know with the refrigerator or stove, you can buy a long range policy. Is there something like that we should
Well,
consider? Or
Well, I mean, they're guaranteeing all the equipment for a year. I don't, Donna, it's Dave was there. It's pretty simple equipment when you get down to it. I mean, they're wireless microphones and the camera, the software is what makes everything work really well.
okay,
And this is new. They had a wired system that was a little bit cheaper, but they're doing away with that. They're going with this wireless system. This is all new. So we're getting in on the ground floor.
and that could be good or bad depending. But I
Well-
prefer the wire. I think that's going to be a lot more flexible.
Right.
Any other comments or discussion that we need before we vote?
Donna, the only comment I give, those insurance policies you buy when you buy a piece of equipment are consumer ripoffs, quite frankly.
I mean, I know I have a microwave. I mean, when I buy a microwave and washing machine, I swear they all die. I mean, I've gotten more money out of it than I paid. So I do it all the time. I hate them, John, but I've gotten the money back because they just seem to die in 3 years. So but computers may be different. I don't know. I'm not pushing for it. I was just asking. So can we vote? Should we vote? Okay. So all in favor of this, the motion to do this, say aye.
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 Okay, and that's all of us. So the motion passes 4-0. Great. All right, Dave, you're next.
All right. So I missed it here. Digitization of township files. Manager McFaw will provide an update. So this is an ongoing project that we've been working on to digitize our basically digitize our files. We've been going, this is what, I don't know how many years we've been doing this. And so this is going to just provide a quick update on where we're at and when we expect to finish the process.
Yes, most of our, excuse me, most of our files are scanned in except for some subdivision plans. But what Eileen is currently working on is our networking system. We had two drives. We have one that we call the file cabinet, and that's where all our permanent records that are scanned end up. And we have parcel folders for every parcel in the township. We have folders for every subdivision that ever came through the township. We have folders for every minute that we have on record, every treasurer's report that's on record. So, and that's our permanent file cabinet. So we also have another drive that's called the share drive, where everything was put when we were working on things, and it really wasn't, how should I say, it really wasn't cleaned up, and things weren't moved over to the file cabinet as they should. So what Eileen is doing now is she's looking at what's on the share drive and then moving it over to our permanent file cabinet record. So when she's finished, the only thing that will be on the share drive are active draft documents that we're working on, or that, you know, we want to share with each other while we're working on them. And right now she's through the biggest, she's through the A&M section. She is working on the minutes, trying to finish that up. And then, you know, she'll continue on through the rest of the alphabet. Ordinances are done for the most part.
So what's the timeline? I mean, how, like, we've been doing, this has been going on for years now. So what's the timeline to get this done?
Dave, it's hard to predict that. I mean, Eileen's working, she doesn't work full time. You know, she comes in, you know, a couple days a week, and well, I don't know, Mary, you have any idea, or Jeff, you have any idea what? I don't know how to predict that.
I can say that, you know, she has organized it better than it was. It is much better since the time I've started. So it's been a whole year, and I know a lot of that has to be a learning curve for me as well, but it feels like the files are where they're supposed to be. When you go to the file, it's where it should be. She's kind of laid out a nomenclature for everything that needs to be in a specific order for, you know, how we should be filing things by parcel. She's going to create a category and a catalog of that list for us. So if a new person comes in, they can look at that and they can make a, you know, a determination on where they need to go to have, you know, to get to a file. We also have all the subdivision files that haven't really been put in there at all. I mean, they're partial information's in there, such as stormwater stuff, but there's not, like, there's all the maps and stuff like that, that I think a lot of the people who come into the township are looking at that. We get a lot of calls from residents who are interested in knowing where their septic system is, or, you know, do you have plans for the house that I just moved into? Do you have any idea of how many times they pumped, or whatever it is for their septic? And we have a lot of that information in the parcel files, but not everything from the subdivision is actually in it. So I think subdivision, if you go into the warehouse part of the township, there's several racks of subdivisions that haven't even, I mean, I don't know.
No, they have been scanned in, Mary. What's missing from the subdivisions are the maps. But I mean, work still needs to be done. Okay. But Dave, what I want you to try and help you realize is that when Eileen started this, there were tons and tons of paper boxes up the attic. So, I mean, yes, she's been working on it a long time, but a lot of it was going through boxes and boxes of papers from the 60s, the 70s, maybe even the 50s, and organizing them and then scanning them in to get where we are now. So right now she's trying to better organize things, I should say. And this is something that Pegasus wanted done. And if Eileen didn't do it, we would be paying them to do it. And it would be harder because they don't know where things belong, while Eileen does. Since she's worked there, she knows what each document is and where it should go. So we are getting to the end of this. But I don't know what to tell you. Maybe like, maybe by June of next year, maybe I just don't know.
Let me make a suggestion here. I'm kind of where David is. We need some metrics on where we're gonna go. So we need some way to measure it. So is there some way that we can measure her performance over like a 2-week period? And that gives us a rate of completion, and then count boxes or files or kilobytes or something and project when we might finish it all.
See that again,
that's kind of metrics that we need to put on it.
Again, that's hard to gauge that, because she might open one folder that's on the shared drive and it could have hundreds of documents in it that she has to go through and move them to the appropriate folder in the file cabinet. And then you open another one and it's slow. Okay, these 10 things, so I know exactly where they go. Zip, I copy them over and there they are. And that's the end of it.
Joan, there's also, which I don't think that everybody's really realizes, but after someone finishes up with a permit, if there's a new house or there's something else that comes up, at the end of the projects, those files go over into her files, and then her files get scanned and filed. She does all the scanning and filing for any new permits that come through.
Yes, so she's working on current documents also.
Wouldn't that make sense to have our township secretary do the current files? Why would we add work to someone we're hiring just to do the archival work?
I think probably because she was creating the archival work. She was creating the file.
So it just seems like this is becoming a perpetual job.
Well, it's not going to be a perpetual job for Eileen, because she's
You're missing my point. We have folks in the office who could be doing this, at least the new stuff, right? And so if new documents come in that need to be scanned and archived, the people that we have full time should be trained to do that. So why are we not doing that? Why are we creating more work for Eileen?
I think we can. I think that Melissa could possibly do some of what she's doing. I think Melissa does a lot of what she's doing with the permit, with the septic and the wells and stuff like that. So when that comes in, Melissa's doing that piece of it, but she's not doing that.
Melissa's doing the scanning for like new documents, like when I get some information, in an email, I'll forward to Melissa and say, Melissa, put this in the appropriate folder, or if it has to be scanned in, put it in the appropriate folder. The only new work that Eileen is doing is actually completed building permits that the building inspector's done with. And we can look at those and see if that will speed up her work, by turning those over to someone else. Donna.
We can't hear you, Donna.
Yeah, when I was thinking about what Eileen does, I go back to what you were saying, Mary, that we had boxes of stuff, right? That we wanted to get the boxes of stuff digitized, so we don't need the boxes of stuff, or we can put them somewhere where we don't ever have to go near them again. Is that work done? I mean, before we start fixing electronic stuff.
It is. Those boxes in the back room, everything in those is scanned except for the big subdivision plan. Some of them are done, but some are not done. So that's why. Okay,
so why not focus on that and have I'm not telling you to do. I'm asking a question. Why would we not have Eileen focus on that and just get all that paper stuff out of the way? What was the logic in moving to computer?
Because Pegasus wants this done so that we can start the next step of our cloud training with Teams and whatever else they're going to do. This was something that Pegasus wanted done.
Plus, Donna,
I mean, I would prefer to have this paper done.
Yeah,
Donna,
it seems like, I mean, I feel like the once the paperwork is the difficult work. Moving things through a file system is something that most anyone can do. I mean, I don't think that's a priority.
Okay, well, I can have her switch over to start filing or scanning rather the subdivision plans, the big
well,
sets of
Just get the
plans.
paperwork done. I do want to comment. I think having the catalog in the library, that's really important. Because that's the structure, right? That's
Yeah.
what you need that before you can start moving things around. So I don't want to say that what she's done is not important. It's very important. It's good that we have that. I just want to check the box on the paper stuff and get
Okay.
that done. I mean,
I just want to let you know too, that when COVID first started and I was talking to other managers, in the county, I found out that we are so far advanced with our scanning than many of them. There are some, because they would put out questions. I mean, some found themselves in a big heap of trouble because they couldn't look at anything electronically.
We're not questioning whether or not the work should be done. We're just trying to get an understanding of like how long is this going to take? How much is it costing the township? Like, that's all we're asking. We're not saying the work isn't important or that Eileen's not doing a good job. It's how is this being managed? How much work is there? And right now it's like, we don't know how much work there is. There's just boxes of stuff and so that's all we're asking. And
Okay,
we don't need to belabor the conversation anymore.
We will go. I will
Just,
go through the plans with her
Thank you.
tomorrow to see what has to be scanned, and then we will have a better answer. Okay.
but I just have one statement to make about those plans, because I just did plans for somebody's house and I made copies because somebody requested it. And it took me a good 2-3 hours just to do one plan. So heads up. Yeah.
Well, scanning does take time. It's not just a matter of throwing the paper in there and zip, you're done. It takes time.
Yeah, that's why
I know, it's
doing
the
it.
maps. You
Yeah.
have to go through
Yeah.
a special machine to do the whole big plans. I mean, they're huge. So it takes.
I mean, that's why that's kind of why that's Eileen's thing, right? She's really good at it and she knows how the machine works. So that's kind of want to get that done. And then we can talk about what else, if the team decides she needs to do something else, that's another project we can talk about.
Okay. Well, I will talk to her tomorrow about that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Joan, just so you know, I know Nancy and I asked you this question, oh God, a year and a half ago, and you thought it would be a year and a half that should be done, and we're there and beyond it. So that's really what the board wants to know. What's the end game here? Is it 6 months? Is it 3 months? Is it a year? We understand it's very important what she's doing. We understand to bring someone else in who's not aware would make the process longer, but we need to know how long the process is, or do we have another part-time employee? We need to know. We don't know. We need to know.
I hear what you're saying, and I just want to repeat again that the scanning, except for the plans, the scanning part is done. Eileen has gone through all the dirty boxes, all the papers and everything. That is scanned in. Okay. So there are two jobs that still have to be done. One is so I'll get her on the plan part if that's, we can get that done first. See,
Yeah,
and
Mary,
when we talked
what I
about
think
that
we
before,
found out is that Joan's estimate of how to do this, how long it's going to take to do the plans is approximately right. So it's been a year and a half, and most of it's done. It's just that we've also found out the job's expanded to something else.
because we went to the cloud.
That we weren't aware of. At least I wasn't aware of. So
And
that's
again,
kind of where we're going.
this sorting that she's doing now is because we went to the cloud. It's not just, this part isn't scanning. It's
Right.
Okay, so, but we will look into that tomorrow and I'll get back to you.
Okay. All right, John, you're next on the agenda, please.
All right, this issue is related to the Franklin Sportsmen's Association and their ability to hunt Franklin Township properties. And one of the requirements of the township to hunt the Franklin preserves is that each FSA member who plans to hunt must pass a proficiency test annually. It's typically conducted in early September before hunting is initiated. There are two components to the proficiency test, firearm and archery. The firearm requirements are that the hunter must place 3 of the 5 shots in a pie-shaped plate at a range of 50 yards. For the archery, the hunter must place 3 of 5 arrows in a pie plate at a range of 15 yards. And just for a little extra information, high-velocity rifles are not permitted in Franklin Township, and all hunters must use a shotgun with special ammunition. The shotgun fires a heavy slug at low velocity, and this shotgun ammunition combination significantly limits the range compared to a high-velocity rifle. So the FSA is requesting a waiver of this proficiency test for this year only for existing members. New members will be required to demonstrate proficiency. And the reason is, it's not all economic. In fact, most of it is related to the extreme shortage of shotgun ammunition and other hunting supplies. The COVID issue has impacted so many industries, and the cost of material is very high. And certainly that's a factor, but not the primary one. The primary one is the shortage of ammunition. And for hunting, they don't need much. I mean, if they hunt all year long, they might not use any. They only need a few. But to use 3 or 4 shots in a proficiency test in the shortage is creating a problem. So the proficiency tests have been conducted annually for the past 11 years in accordance with the Franklin Township Resolution 2020-10. I have witnessed the qualification tests for the past 9 years, and I can attest that 99% of the hunters who engage the proficiency test only use 3 of the 5 shots available to qualify. This high level of performance clearly demonstrates the ability of FSA members to maintain their proficiency from year to year. So I'm going to recommend that the board grant a waiver for the proficiency test this year for only existing members. Any new members must demonstrate proficiency because we haven't seen their performance. And just an added note, we've all encountered material shortages with a wide range of items as a result of COVID-19 since March 2020. Limited availability of raw material, production shortage, labor shortages, and a wide range of other issues have impacted the ability to produce finished goods to meet consumer demand. So what I'm asking the board to do, and the FSA is asking, is to waive this proficiency test for this year, primarily because it is a hardship to do it, but they've demonstrated this high level of proficiency year after year for the last 11 years. So we're not really giving up any real safety by doing this. So that's going to be the resolution. I'll read the resolution. We can have further discussion. I make a motion that the board grant a waiver for proficiency tests for this year for only existing members. All new members must demonstrate proficiency this year. Here, a second.
I'll second that, John.
Seconded by Donna. So it's open for discussion, and I witnessed this a lot, so I could probably answer a lot of questions. There may be some FSA members online. I don't know whether they are or not.
Okay, I'd like to make a few comments on this. I don't think asking a member of the FSA to use 3 bullets to be able to hunt our preserves, 3 bullets once a year, is a hardship. And I disagree with COVID-19 and supply lines. Yes, we have had problems in our supply lines, but that's not why, that doesn't apply to bullets and weapons. The reason we have a shortage of bullets is because of conditions in the country, political conditions, unrest, and all that. I looked this up online. We are certainly not, well, we don't own weapons. We're not opposed to them. My husband was trained how to use weapons. He never hunted animals. He hunted people. So we have a kind of a different perspective on weapons, but I feel strongly if you want to be a hunter and you want to hunt and that's your sport, and that's your enjoyment, go ahead. But I don't think it's a lot to require someone once a year to spend the money and take the time to do the test once a year, 3 bullets. The shortage of bullets has been caused by people hoarding the bullets. They're scared, they're buying more guns. If you buy more guns, you need more bullets. And there's nothing wrong with the supply line. It's the demand that has been created. So I think that's a false premise. We need to understand why the bullets, I mean, it's a sport and the price of their sport just went up. But I don't know, does a bullet cost $1 and now it costs $3? I don't know, but the price went up. I just, for safety reasons, I would be way more comfortable if every year they spent 3 bullets and passed their proficiency test, because we have residents walking in these preserves. And I want to know that if somebody's hunting while residents walking, that person really is proficient in using that gun. And absolutely, it needs to be done for new members. I don't think we get many new members. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think they pretty much are the same members year after year. But I don't think it's a lot to ask to, once a year, expend the money for 3 bullets. I know members of my family that carry a weapon, they have to be proficient many times a year. They're required to do a proficiency test with their weapon. We're talking about a weapon here, a bullet. It's just, to me, it's a very, very serious issue. And I don't want anyone to think I'm against hunting or against your sport. I personally don't like it, but we all do what we want to do. But I want to be safe, and I don't think 3 bullets. And for this year, I would feel very strongly that this is going to come up again next year to get a waiver. It's just one of those slippery slopes we might start down. I don't think we need to make this waiver, so I'm not for it at all. And that's the reason that I think the basis of the supply line has been created by the people that buy guns and buy bullets. And okay, that's the cost of your sport. That's just the way it goes. But yeah, I want you to do the proficiency test every year, and I'll feel a lot safer that our residents can walk in the preserves while the hunters are in the preserves. And they do a great service. They cull the deer herd, and we do need that done. But yeah, I want them to be proficient. So that's my comment. Thank you.
So John, I will support the motion. I disagree with Mary on what the issue is with the bullets, but that's not why I would do it. I think these guys know what they're doing. And if there was a motion, I'd go even further. If there was a motion that said these guys only need to qualify every other year, and I know that's not what you're asking, I'd vote for that. So I just wanted to let you know I do support your motion.
Yeah, so, and I think I agree with you, Donna. So I don't know what the right frequency that you would do a proficiency test is. I'm not a hunter. I don't know much about these things, but I know that I took 1 driving test in my life and no one's asked me to take any more driving tests. So I know a car is not a weapon, but the point being, I just feel like I don't know. So there's 2 issues. We're not talking about how frequently we need the FSA to re-up their proficiency. I think that, from my interactions with the folks on the FSA and just observing their behaviors, they've always been very straightforward and responsible. And, I think asking for a waiver to this year, particularly since we are in, some pretty unique times, isn't really too much to ask. And so, yeah, again, I think I would support, or I will support, the waiver for this year for sure. And that's all I have. So,
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 3-1. Thank you.
All right. The next item is Act 65, Solicitor Mark Thompson will provide a brief update on the changes to the amendment.
Good evening, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
This amendment has been kicking around state government, I'd say, for the last 10 years. I'm not sure what the impetus is, but it changes the Sunshine Act as it relates to how the township, the Board of Supervisors, and all of the individual boards that are subject to the Sunshine Act relate as they would pursuant, to how they produce their agenda. I apologize. So before, there was really no controls on the agenda. The agenda could be put out at any time. Items could be placed on and taken off the agenda. This act requires that for meetings, the agenda be set within 24 hours prior to the meeting. I don't think Franklin has any issues, at least related to the Board of Supervisors, with that. That's always done. That's the current state of affairs. The agenda has to include each matter that's going to be deliberated, and it has to be physically posted at the meeting location. I don't think, again, this really doesn't change anything as far as how Franklin does business. And you have to have copies of the agenda available. Again, it's the same. If you wanted to add something to the agenda after the 24-hour period, there are certain exceptions that would allow you to do that. If there's a piece of business that you weren't aware of within that 24-hour period, if it's something that's very minor, it's called de minimis, then you can add that. And if there's something that a question comes up during a meeting and you have to direct that to your solicitor or another consultant, then you can add that to the agenda. What would have to happen would be the manager would need to republish the amended agenda. You would have to take a vote to amend the agenda at the meeting and indicate why you're making that amendment. And then you'd have to republish it the next business day. Again, just a little more control on the agenda and issues that the Board of Supervisors can discuss at a public meeting. Again, I don't know if there were townships in Pennsylvania that were abusing placing items on the agenda, last minute and trying to hide things, but I don't see that in Franklin Township. So other than just, asking your manager to comply with this, that's really all that this township needs to do.
Okay.
Mark, I have a question. We normally post our agenda on Fridays. We get the books ready for the board and for you, and then that Friday, the agenda goes on our website. Taking into consideration these changes, would it be better if we posted it a little bit later, like Monday night or something like that, to give us time in case something had to be changed? Do you feel there's an advantage to that, or should we just continue the way we do?
If you think that something may come up over the weekend, again, that you can amend the agenda up to that 24-hour time frame. So if
Okay.
you wanted to amend it 24 hours in advance of a meeting, if something were to come up over the weekend, a tree fell down or something happened to a township facility, then you could do that. So I wouldn't think that you'd want to change the way that you've been proceeding currently.
Okay.
And I wouldn't support that. I mean, people need to have a chance to see what's going to be presented at the meeting. And so I think it's nice that we can get it to them on a Friday.
Okay.
So that's really the gist of it. I mean, the downside is that it does set up some more procedural hurdles for us to make sure that we're complying with when it comes to the agenda. And if someone felt that an item was added late to an agenda without justification, they could claim that it was a violation of the Sunshine Act. And if a decision was taken on that item, allege that the township, that it was what's called void ab initio, you need to take that decision again. But it's something we'll just have to pay close attention to to agendas. And again, this applies to any township board or commission that's subject to the Sunshine Act. Some, like the zoning hearing board, wouldn't necessarily have an agenda. You would have a hearing on an appeal or an application that might not change. I'm not quite sure how to handle issues that are being taken off the agenda. So we'll just have to take it as it comes to see how agendas work moving forward. Certainly, if you wanted to put something on the agenda that was less than 24 hours before the meeting, that would present a problem now. So that's all I have for this new legislation. It takes effect next month.
Mark, you faded out there. I just wanted to ask a question. This goes for all boards, commissions, and committees, correct?
Any board or commission that's subject to the Sunshine Act, correct. Now, ad hoc committees, there's a gray area there, but I'm not aware of any committee that Franklin currently has that wouldn't be subject to this.
Thank you.
I think you advertise all your meetings pursuant to the Sunshine Act.
Thank you, sir.
Mary, do you want me to take the next item? Are you okay? Is that, I think that's a yes.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, we can talk. You can ask them, feel free to ask them now, or we can talk through it with Joan and at some later point.
All right.
I'm sure
Thank
it'll
you.
come up.
Thanks,
The
Mark.
only comment I've got is that what I heard was that the procedure we're using right now is entirely compliant with this new change in the law. And the only thing we'd have to pay attention to would be any changes as we get close to the meeting. Is that a fair assessment of it?
That's correct, John. Yeah, that's my assessment of it.
I mean, you've observed our meetings for a long time, so.
Yeah, and I've been aware of townships that do make adjustments consistently, the day of or the day before the meeting. So I don't see that going on here in Franklin. So you guys, again, I don't deal with the planning commission specifically or zoning hearing board or ad hoc committee. But the board certainly is the way that you're doing business.
Okay, very good.
And Mark, can I ask you, you mentioned that we have to post the agenda for the meeting. Is it enough to post it on the website? We don't physically have to tape it up on the door window, do we?
Well, it does say that you have to physically post something at the meeting location. I believe you guys do have something, a way to post things on the outside of the building, but I haven't been down in a while. But no, it does require a physical posting, but you could just put the notice right up on the window if you like, or if you have another way to do it. This was an interesting question, given the fact we're having all these virtual meetings as to where the location of the posting is, but the township offices, in my opinion, would suffice.
And Mary, it's been a long time since we've had a in-person
Right.
meeting, but we always hand out copies of the agendas at those meetings. I don't
Okay.
remember. So that's part of it too, that you have to have those available.
No way we can post this too on site is at the bulletin board, which everyone passes at the recycling center.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah, just a thought.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Donna, can you take the next one?
Yeah, I jumped the gun too much, Mary. We're getting towards the end. So we're just looking for an update on Appleton Road. Mark, I think you would be the person, 2327 Appleton Road. Anything happening?
Pardon me. No, we're just proceeding with the briefing schedule for the appeal of the building permit denial. The other matter litigation is going on related to that. At this point, it's sitting, and again, we're waiting for briefs, and we'll be briefing that matter through September, and then hopefully we'll have argument in October, November, and a decision within 6 months after that. So there's nothing.
Word on the The lot line, are we still being sued for something that we took care of?
We're working on that lawsuit, Donna, and we'll hopefully have some movement on that shortly within the next month or two. So,
All right.
Mark, related to the appeal of the demolition for neglect, when would you think that would come to a court to be judged?
So you mean the certificate of appropriateness,
Yes,
John, that the board denied? Right. So the record was filed last month, and the briefing, there's 30 days. I don't know, let's just say 2 months after that. So our brief will likely be due sometime in September. I don't have the exact dates.
Okay. I guess the general question is this year or possibly later.
After that, it's possible. Yeah. I mean, the judge that this appeal is currently before is a judge that we've known to make decisions within, a short period, several months after briefs are filed and an argument is made. So we would be looking at an argument probably sometime in October and possibly a decision possibly before the end of the year, John. I would not foreclose that from happening.
Okay. The only thing I want to add to this thing is the current cost to the township for this Appleton Road issue was $69,117.81 is our current investment into the adventure.
Right.
So moving on, the last item is the Lexington Pointe update, and there's no motion required. So who can provide that?
I can offer an update. I'm usually asked to offer an update. They did have an amended permit that was filed. Stan Corbett, I had a conference call with Stan today, and he is putting together. We had a very comprehensive list of items that they needed to comply with in order to move forward. This was negotiated a year and a half ago when we approved the updated agreement, and Stan is going through that this week.
We're losing you. Okay. We lost you there, Mark.
I can give you a little bit more of that until Mark comes on. They have submitted a building permit for the building structure, and LTL, our building inspector, Rob Riddle, is working on that, and he had some questions which he submitted to Keystone, for answers. He's still waiting on answers with that. And Pete is working on the stormwater issues. And I've asked them to coordinate with Stan, since he's sort of overseeing everything, so that Stan knows where each of those parts of the puzzle stand, so that we can have a final picture. So they both reached out to Stan and updated him.
Joan, just a point of information, the building permit you're speaking of is for the operating control room.
Yes.
Which is a block building with gable ends with asphalt shingles and fiberglass siding or something on the gables. Pretty standard looking building.
And have they ever heard from DEP? Have they ever gotten their okay on their permit?
They did on the revisions, yes.
Okay, so maybe I missed that. Okay, that's done. That's good.
So then what's holding the thing up here? If they've got the permit, then they should be ready to sign the developer's agreement so they could start work. He's got signs all over the place selling houses.
So they can go, right? So all they have to do is what they agreed to do with us, and they have what they need. For the life of me, I don't understand.
Well, the stormwater plan's not approved yet. The building permit is not approved yet. So
yeah, maybe I think I got bumped off for just a second there. We have a comprehensive list that Stan and I developed when we approved that amended agreement related to all of the aspects of this proposed amended system. I mean, we have to look at financial security for the original development. We have quite a few issues on that list. I'm not suggesting that there's anything that's beyond Keystone from getting done, but Stan and I heard Joan say he's been in touch with LTL, and DEP did issue the amended permit. So we're putting together a comprehensive list so we can go through it with Keystone so everyone knows they're on the same page.
Right.
And hopefully we'll be able to do that in the next week or two.
I mean, I know you can't predict, but do you get the sense they want to start building before the winter, or is this just Lexington Pointe time?
I think they're moving ahead. No, I absolutely, Don. I know that for long periods of time we've had complete inaction by Keystone, but they're pushing ahead. Their attorneys contacting me about escrow, updated escrow numbers. We've got to respond to them. This was just, within the last week, and provide them information as to what we think, what additional information they need. So we're having that dialogue, and they are moving, Donna.
Okay.
They're
right.
pushing along.
All right.
So I hopefully we'll have a more comprehensive update on what they need and where they are at the next meeting.
All right. Any more questions on Lexington Pointe? Okay, that brings us to the conclusion of business and to any public comment or any issues you have. Any
Mary,
public comment?
Mary, would I be allowed to give 2 updates I forgot to give during the park discussion?
Sure, absolutely.
I was kind of given short notice yesterday to appear in district court on behalf of the township. Make a long story short, we are going to receive restitution for the vandalism that occurred in the bathrooms. So there was a hearing before Judge Seavey yesterday for that. The other update regarding Hess Mill Bridge, the charges have been filed and there will be a hearing date on September 17th regarding those charges at Court of Common Pleas. And I was told that I would be updated by the state police when they had more information.
Okay.
Jeff, can you just give the amount? I think there was a significant amount of money for the bathrooms.
It was, don't hold me to this, Donna, but it was like $465.11.
Okay, I thought it was more than that, but that's great. Okay, but still, that's good. So that it's good to see. It's more of a learning thing. So that you can't do this kind of damage, even if you're young and being foolish, and not have some kind of consequences. So good.
That's the message I tried to convey yesterday to them.
Jeff,
So hopefully we'll have the same message for the bridge, because I looked at that as even worse in terms of the damage done. So hopefully we'll make some. Hopefully we'll make a difference in that young man's life.
Jeff, you mentioned that this hearing would be in the Court of Common Pleas. Is that correct?
That's what I was told, sir.
Because that's the big boys court in Westchester. That's not magistrate court.
Yep, and it says to occur at the Court of Common Pleas.
Okay.
But, yeah, wait, Jeff,
John, yeah. Well, no, go ahead.
I'm reading the memo that you gave me today, Jeff, and the hearing's going to be on September 17th, and it says at that hearing, they will determine if there's enough to send the charges up to the Court of Common Pleas.
Yeah, typically you start at the district court at what's called a preliminary hearing, and that judge will determine whether or not there's enough evidence to proceed with the charges.
All right.
And then eventually, yeah.
This will be magistrate court, probably at Matt Seavey, I guess. Yeah. All right.
You're on mute, Mary.
Any other further public comment? All right, I'm not hearing any, so we'll adjourn this meeting at 9:39. And thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thank you,
All
Mary.
right.
Okay,
Thank
good
you,
night.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.